The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Raising his eyes toward his disciples, Jesus said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for the kingdom of God is yours. Blessed are you who are now hungry, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who are now weeping, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude and insult you and denounce your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice and leap for joy on that day. Behold, your reward will be great in heaven, for their ancestors treated the prophets in the same way. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. But woe to you who are filled now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will grieve and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for their ancestors treated the false prophets in this way." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
A couple of weeks ago, my friends, my wife Anne and I celebrated our 19th wedding anniversary. And while it may come off as slightly tongue-in-cheek, it really is the truth when I say that she is the best part of our one flesh. I sometimes joke that the only reason why people are my friend is so that they can be friends with her. Now you may laugh at that and say, "Oh, Deacon, you're being way too hard on yourself." But I do not lie when I tell you that my own parents, those that birthed me, raised me, told me that if Anne and I ever separated and they had to pick one or the other, they would keep her instead of me. And we recently learned how literal one flesh can be when my sugar addiction led to her being diagnosed with diabetes. I joke about it, but in truth, it's really hard to be married to Deacon Ryan, and yet she does it with such grace and poise. So my heart ached a bit when I read the words of St. Paul today. "If you marry, however, you do not sin, nor does an unmarried woman sin if she marries. But such people will experience affliction in their earthly life, and I would like to spare you that." Our present translation of the Bible tones it down a little bit. The literal translation says that we will have tribulations of the flesh. I know this is true. I know St. Paul would have desired my wife to be spared many of the aspects of being married to me. When I was a beat cop, Anna couldn't sleep when I worked night shifts. I would come home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and she'd be there awake. She'd be so tired, and yet she would wait up for me, even though that she started work at 8 or 9 o'clock herself. On other days, she would wake up and snuggle up to me, and then she would see some new set of bruises or stitches or blood from an injury I received the night before. When I was a homicide detective, I would spend over 250 nights a year in hotels. She would kiss me goodbye in the morning, and then she would never know whether I would be home that day or whether it would be 2 or 3 weeks later. She wouldn't know where I was. And she watched in concern and fear as I tried year after year to battle the demons that come with 25 years of seeing the darkest part of humanity. I know many spouses here have or continue to carry heavy crosses associated with their call to holy matrimony. I'm not sure if Paul's desire to spare us those tribulations is much consolation to my wife as she experiences the difficulties, anxieties, even sufferings that come with being my wife. And yet, if you were to ask her, she will tell you that she, just like so many holy spouses, gladly carries those crosses. I know that because what does bring consolation is the promise of Jesus Christ that we heard in our gospel today. In his radical reversal of what the world presents to us, he promises that the poor, the hungry, the sorrowful, the hated, they will rejoice, for their reward is great in heaven. Spouses may be asked to carry heavy crosses, but we know the spiritual danger that comes when we feel satisfied because we are rich, that we have everything we need, when we are satiated by the abundance of food at our table, or when we laugh because we're on top of the world and thus celebrate our accomplishments. And we know the time to effect this radical reversal that Jesus calls us to is today. Twice, St. Paul warns us that time is running out, that the world in its present form is passing away. The moment for our conversion is now. My friends, my wife has such deep faith. She inspires me, she teaches me, and she believes in me. St. Paul may wish to spare us from the tribulations that come with marriage, but I know that I speak on behalf of so many who would say they wouldn't trade those tribulations for the world. I know that when Anna and so many others hear the words of St. Paul when he says, "From now on, let those having wives act as not having them, those weeping as not weeping, those rejoicing as not rejoicing, those buying as not owning, those using the world as not using it fully," she and so many know that unlike the world today, St. Paul isn't telling married people to act as though they are single. It's not a holy hall pass, or that we're never to weep, rejoice, or to enjoy things of this world. He's simply reminding us that the things of this world do not have lasting value. That what's important, that where our eyes should be fixed, that what does have lasting value is our life in Jesus Christ.